everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about quantitative versus qualitative data. So take a deep breath and let's make this math easy. All right, so when we're looking at quantitative versus qualitative data, the difference between them is the type of data that you're collecting. So qualitative data are pieces of information that allow us to classify the members of the population into categories. And these categories could be anything. So it could be the color of your eyes. It could be your political party affiliation. It could be the neighborhood you live in. But they're qualities that allow you to classify the members of the population into categories. Quantitative data, on the other hand, are pieces of information that are numerical in nature. So they're going to be numbers, and specifically they're numbers that allow us to perform meaningful arithmetic calculations. So for example, if I wanted to ask people how tall they are, this would be an example of quantitative data because it's a number, and if I asked a whole bunch of people how tall they are, I could calculate the average height, which would be an arithmetic calculation because I would add everything together, divide by the number of people that I'd asked. That would give me the average height. And with qualitative data, you can't do numerical calculations with them because if you ask everybody what their eye color is, well, you can't say, oh, well, the average eye color of people is, like, that makes no sense to do a numerical calculation with that. And so quantitative data have to do with numbers and qualitative data have to do with categories. And this is kind of built into the name because if you look at the root word of quantitative, it has the root word quantity versus qualitative has the root word quality. And so quantitative data has to do with the quantities or the numbers, and qualitative has to do with the qualities that you can use to categorize the different data points. And so pretty much anytime you're collecting numbers through your survey or whatever it is that you're studying, that's going to be quantitative data. And if you're collecting something that's not numbers, that's going to be qualitative. Now, there are some exceptions, like, for example, a zip code. A zip code is technically a qualitative data because it's categorizing people by where they live. And it doesn't really make any sense to find the average zip code. You know, like if one person lives in New York, one person lives in Utah, if you average those two zip codes, you're not going to get someplace in the middle of New York and Utah. So there may be some situations where numbers may be used to label different categories, in which case the numbers would be qualitative data. But for the most part, if you see a number or if you're collecting numbers, you're collecting quantitative data. The only exception to that is something like a zip code or something where you're using numbers to label a category, but it doesn't really make sense to add those numbers together or average them or things like that. So why don't you guys try these examples and identify whether these 4 different types of data points would be qualitative or quantitative. So pause this video and then restart it to see what the answers are. Okay, so for this first one, if I was going to ask people what their eye color was, this would be a qualitative question because they're not going to give me answers in numbers. So this would be a qualitative question. And when I collect all of those data points and they tell me, oh, like my eye color is blue or green or brown, that would allow me to categorize the people into the different categories of the different eye colors. So that makes it a qualitative question. If I wanted to find the daily high temperatures for Cedar City, well, this is a number question because temperatures are measured in numbers. And so this makes this a quantitative question. And if I were to collect all of the daily high temperatures for Cedar City over a month, I could find the average high temperature by adding them all up and dividing by the number of days in the month. So again, that makes it a quantitative question because you're going to get number results, and those numbers could be averaged or added together or whatever type of calculation you wanted to do. Same thing with the annual income of SUU students. This would be quantitative because I'm looking at a number that describes how much money each one of the students makes. But if I was looking at the favorite shoe brand of teenagers, this would be qualitative because when I ask everybody what their favorite shoe brand is, they're going to give me different answers that I can use to categorize them based on their favorite shoe brand. So this is the difference between qualitative versus quantitative data. If you have any questions, let me know.